besties. This is your Psychic Besties podcast, a show dedicated to people like us who are spiritual but not saints. We're Alana and Allison, two psychic millennials with over 20 years combined knowledge and experience to help guide you on your spiritual path. You can follow us on Instagram at Your Psychic Besties Pod. Thanks for listening.
Hi besties, welcome to Your Psychic Besties podcast. This is season 2, episode 2, and we have Francesca, who is the self-proclaimed hot mess mom turned medium. We love this, and we're so happy to have her here with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, she's going to tell us everything that we want to know about mediumship and about her journey as a medium and a mom.
Okay, so I think that we should start with like your life before you knew that you were a medium, and now looking back, if you have any signs or clues that like this is what was unfolding.
So life before I found out I was a medium was, to me, normal.
But was it really?
I don't know. What is normal? I don't think normal exists now. It's all perception based, but I grew up in Yonkers. I went to a Catholic school. I was taught never to question what the Catholic Church taught, the Bible. I had questions, but I wasn't allowed to challenge it. So I always felt there was more to life, more to creation, and what else is out there? And you're kind of taught, you don't ask that. This is what it is. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So, you just push through. So faith-wise, I feel like I did always believe in God. I always believed that there was more, though, than what the Catholic Church...
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I grew up, I was a dancer. I wanted to be a professional dancer. That's what I did. I went for college for dance. That kind of got squashed early because it's hard to make it in the industry. Yeah. I needed to make money. I didn't want to be a starving artist forever. So then I got a gig doing photography, started photography, met my husband, we dated, got married, everything was normal. And then we had kids, and, I didn't really know what I was doing, but I embraced motherhood, and, I stayed home with my kids. And then once I had my second son, I had to kind of give up the photography. I stayed home because my husband was working.
Right.
So I felt isolation kind of creep in. After my second son is when I was 30 when I had him. And I struggled really bad with postpartum depression, and I was on the verge of committing suicide. I had a plan in my head. Am I allowed to say that word?
Of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. It's just the reality of it. I had horrible postpartum depression, and I had a plan as to how I was going to do it. I wasn't going to take anybody with me. My plan got cut short one day, and I was in a rage one day, and I was like, that's it, I'm doing it now. And I sped off from my house. I left my kids and my husband at home. I drove to a parking lot. I don't know why. I just was like, maybe I need to just, I was on this rage. And then I was like, this other sounding board was like, maybe you need to, reel it in and write through it. And it was like the devil and the angel.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And I was battling with myself, and I went into a Staples. I got a notebook. I said, let me write this out. Maybe I need to write about my feelings. And then the other side was like, no, there's a bridge not far from here. Just go do it. Jump off. And I was begging for divine intervention. I was terrified. I had shut my phone off. Nobody knew where I was. Nobody ever called the stay-at-home mom, really, because everybody's busy at work. And I was like, this is scary. Like, I'm going to kill myself and nobody's going to know where I am or that I was struggling. And I was begging God still. I was like, please have someone knock on my door. It's like I was so scared.
You didn't really want to, but
I didn't want to. Yes.
You felt like it was like the only way out.
Yes. And I was just sick to my stomach. And then I had a moment where I still today don't know. We could chalk it up to an angel, to God, to your spirit. Yes.
A divine intervention.
Oh, I got chills.
Yeah.
I heard for the first time in my, actually looking back, it was not the first time. Right. Clairaudiently, or which is in your mind's, so like in your head, like a thought. And it came in with a feeling, and it said, you will not do what you're saying you're going to do. You're going to go home now. And I'm like, it was so profound. I was pulled from my body, That's the only way I can explain it. It was all out of body experience.
Yeah.
I watched myself drive home, and I didn't, you know when like you're in autopilot after a night out and you're like, how the fuck did I get home?
Yeah.
You know, you get home and you're like,
I
I
bet
can't
that's
believe
my
I
life
drove it.
every day.
You're like, how did I get here? I got home and I was like, I can't believe I'm home. Like, I can't believe I didn't go drive towards the bridge. I can't
You don't
believe
know how you got home. Spirit took you home.
And I felt a little better when I got home.
Wow.
I didn't feel I felt hopeful for the first time, and something happened to me that I couldn't explain. So I walked in, I told my husband, I said, look, I'm really not okay. I need professional help. I have to get better. I'm really depressed. And the human side, got professional help. I worked through postpartum stuff. I got better. She gave me tools, and I started feeling better. I started cutting back on drinking. I was drinking heavily. And I'm not ashamed to say it because that's the reality of my depression. And even as a mom, watching my kids, and I sobered up. I'm not entirely sober, but I'll enjoy a cocktail once every 2 months. But for the most part, I did. And I got better, and I started seeing a light at the end of the tunnel. So when I started healing my human self, that's when the spiritual side started waking up. So it wasn't an overnight thing. It happened over the course of about a year or two. And then the mediumistic side that started opening up to me, that I was not expecting. I always believed in psychics and mediums growing up. I thought it was amazing. You know, conflicted with the Catholic religion.
Of course.
But I'm like, but there's some truth to this. Like, there's some truth to, like, legit psychic and mediums. And so it all just started to slowly unravel. And then I think it was about a year and a half after, or about a year after I wanted to end my life, was when I was told, and I realized, I connected the dots, that I was a medium. And I just didn't understand it. I said, I can't do a reading like how I've been to other, and the one medium I went to, she was like, you think I started out like this? I didn't start out like this. It takes time. So, and then the dreams came, spirits came in my house, they came to the dream state. And then now, like you said, that other part of your question was, looking back, had you had these signs? Yes.
Right.
Not, I never grew up seeing spirit out of objectively, how I see you. But I did always feel. And I think the more
Were
I
you scared of the dark as a kid?
No.
They say that's a thing with mediums. I don't know.
No, I loved the dark. I loved
really
the dark. I loved horror. I loved all of it. I
I'm
guess
like that too.
I was more scared of people than the dark.
people
I was more
are
scared
fine.
of people when I was little.
Yes, and I trust the dead more than the living.
Exactly.
Today,
Definitely.
1000%. But looking back, yes, there were signs. I when my cat passed, it's funny. I think my cat was my first
connection.
Yeah. And
people say that about animals. It's wild, and it's really coming into fruition more and more.
Yeah, and I was in 8th grade, and I woke up and I told her, I said, Mom, Bugsy was at the end of my bed. She slept in like she was like, okay.
Yeah, right.
And then I just got on with my life because I was like, I don't know, was it real? Was it not? Whatever. But yeah, I looking back now, feeling energy was where it really connected. So not necessarily the mediumistic side, but trusting my gut and my intuition when it comes to feeling energy, whether I'm sitting with you or if I'm home alone and I'm picking up something, or it all made sense.
Well,
my
that's
life
the
made
first
sense.
Step, I think, for any abilities, it's like trusting your intuition. Like, that has to be in place for anything else to open up.
I feel like also we're born not in a bad way, but I feel like it's not a tool that's taught to kids.
Exactly.
Like math
absolutely
is.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? So really, I feel like it does take our growing and then something to happen maybe in our adult years for us to be
it's usually something traumatic.
I was just gonna say that. It's always like, it's funny how you were saying, like, Alana was, saying that her and Francesca have similarities. As you were saying, what you said, again, everybody's experience is different, but I had similar experiences as a child where, again, like, not really being like psychic or a medium or anything, but it's like energy spoke so heavy to me. And that was the one thing that I can always remember. Like, if I was in the supermarket with my mother, finest in Cross County, right?
What's it called?
Remember finest in Cross County?
No,
Anybody
I don't.
from Westchester?
And I did go to
Yeah.
Cross County. I don't remember that.
It was like where I don't even know. It was in Cross County. Yeah, Food Emporium. Yeah, it was probably finest and Food Emporium, whatever. But if like somebody was in front of me, I remember just like walking around where if they moved up, I would walk around the spot that they were already standing in, and I just thought I was like a weird child. But same thing, like I would know somebody, or I would physically meet somebody and just know them. But it's like weird.
Yes.
What do you say? What do you do?
Yeah.
Like you know, and it's like having those energetic experiences and not knowing how to process them.
Yes.
So it's funny you brought up the clairaudient thing because I think that was one of my first things as a kid. But I heard people talking outside, like you hear
Objectively.
Yeah,
Yes.
like not in my head.
Yes.
So that's when I really feel like I turned off my abilities. I think I had to be like 12 or 13. It would be like a lot of times it's like you're half asleep and you hear people whispering in the hall and stuff like that and just like noises.
Yeah.
But I'll never forget the moment when I heard someone yell my name. I was sitting in my basement. I was like, it sounds like they're coming from the kitchen, but there's nobody home.
Wow.
And in that moment, I said, I don't like this. I'm scared of this. I don't want to do this. Whatever it is. But you have no idea. If you're, especially back then before the internet, you have no idea what's going on.
And like with Catholic parents,
Yeah.
like what,
Yeah.
you know, you're not gonna like go over and be like, I hear somebody, or like I can feel somebody, or like, wait, I think I know this person energetically. They're gonna be like, what?
Yeah. And you know what's sad? They listen. So
Yeah,
I'm sure.
right?
Well,
Yes.
but that's a good thing too, because it's like spirit doesn't want to. I mean,
They
I
don't
know.
want to scare you.
No, they don't.
They
so
really
it's like
don't.
I was so scared in that moment because I was a kid.
Yeah.
So that's why I was wondering if, like, looking back, you had things and experiences where you're like, that was a little weird. That's not normal. That was probably like my abilities that you kind of turn off until you're ready.
You know what? You know what I think it was for me. I think it would be like going into a home where, growing up, you go to like, your mom's cousin's house, and you don't really know, and then you're sitting in the space, and you're like, you have this thought. That's how mediumship is for me. It's not like it's not. It's different for everybody, right?
Is, yeah.
So for me, it's more like they pop in a thought. So
looking
back, I'm like, okay, well now I definitely had experiences with spirit.
Right.
If this is how they communicate with me, now it makes sense. Looking back, I'm like, the houses I would walk into, I would be like, well, why? Do you know what I mean? Like it all made sense.
That's a very familiar experience
yes.
to like the ones that
when
I
it
had.
all comes together.
Yes.
And I feel like also, like, first of all, thank you for sharing your journey with us.
No
and like that was very brave of you. We had me
I'm
in
an
tears.
open book. It is what it is.
She's a real one. Like,
Yeah.
The things that she posts about, like, I love her.
Yes.
For
And
that.
that's, that's so authentic because that's part of, again, and I know all three of us have had, again, similar experiences where, again, it's not something you know when you're a child.
Yeah.
You feel very isolated. And it's
weird.
also, and it's also part of the journey where, like, I mean, psychics, mediums, spiritualists, like, we turn a piece off through, like, self-sabotaging and through, like, polluting ourselves, which is why, like, as a teenager, I nothing crazy, but I was very wild. I drank, I smoked.
Are you not?
We all did.
But like, more than, and come to think of it, like through those times, I didn't have as many of those experiences because I was very rebellious and self-sabotaging.
You do that because maybe it's too much for you to
Exactly.
feel. But that's why postpartum, when all of it started, I drank because I was depressed. Then I sobered up, and then I started sensing spirit, and I was like, I gotta fucking.
No,
like,
okay.
you were
sorry.
unfiltered. You can curse.
Sorry. I was like, God, I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
I would drink because I'm like, I don't want to see these shadow figures anymore. So I would self-medicate because I didn't know what it was. And I'm like, this is just crazy. Could you imagine after all these years of marriage and having kids, and now I got to tell my husband, I'm seeing these things. They're in the...
Did he think it was weird? Yes.
Okay. It took a while for him to get on board.
Okay, but were you seeing what you believe to be like a shadow?
That I saw objectively.
Yeah.
I was awake. I didn't even tell you this whole other part.
Okay.
So the first spirit I saw was a shadow figure. The night, it's so funny, there's no such thing as a coincidence.
Right. I always say that.
The night I saw my poppy, we buried my poppy on Halloween.
Wow. Okay.
Okay, that was...
It was just his anniversary.
Yes.
Aww.
And he is still so like active. We still have a good relationship. But my other grandparents are not as loud, which like kills me, and I don't understand the human brain side, but whatever, I'll get into that later.
Oh, we could talk about why I think that is, but go.
Oh,
right.
I'd love
Yeah.
to talk about this
Okay.
stuff. Yeah. So my grandfather, my pop, when he passed, we buried him on Halloween, and I took the kids trick-or-treating. We came home. I think it might have actually been either November 1st or the 2nd, because we resumed regular work. My husband went back to work. He worked nights, so I was alone at night with the kids when they were younger. And I remember waking up, my little one was still in the crib. This was right after I started going to therapy.
Okay.
Okay, so timeline wise, all 2018.
Okay.
So I started getting better mentally, and then he passed away. So
Of course.
yeah,
Good timing. Yeah.
Yep. So he came to me, and I was like, "Am I asleep? Am I awake? Like, what is this? What is that?"
You actually saw him in front of you.
So it was shadow figure,
Okay.
dark.
Wow.
But I knew the energy.
Was him?
Yes.
Oh.
So he
I
was in
love
between
that.
the crib where my son was and where I was given his wedding band because
Oh, wow.
my son carries his namesake.
Wow.
So my mom, and she was like, take the wedding band when he gets older, give it to him. So he was standing in between his mass card, the ring, and my son. So I was like, what are you doing? I was like, and I got up and I looked up, and in Ghost, where you saw the movie Ghost,
Yeah.
obviously,
Yeah.
where they're trying to combine physical and spiritual
Yes.
to make things move. Like he's
Mhm.
he's getting his feet wet, right? My poppy punched me in my heart space, and I fell back to bed, and then I woke up and he was gone.
Wow. I know, I have the chills.
All day. Okay, wait. So I just want to circle back to that.
Sorry.
You can tell me what you think, because
Yeah.
this is like my theory that, I don't know, that's come to me over the years. So when someone dies, it's almost like you still have the option to have a job, almost. So some people choose to be our spirit guides, and some people go on to like almost another higher realm where they're harder to contact.
Yes.
So,
this is very common.
this is
Like,
a really good
Yes.
topic and
Yeah.
conversation, because doing mediumship, I've come to recognize when spirit steps in for a reading, they come through in different places depending on if they're male or female. So females come through here. The closer they are to the family member, the closer they are to me.
Okay.
If it's a passing that they either suicide or an accidental passing or an intentional passing,
Mhm.
they sometimes come either from like behind, so they come through for me in like different spaces.
Yes, that's how you recognize
Mhm.
them.
Yes,
Okay.
sometimes how they pass. Well, that'll give
Right.
me like a feeling as to like how they passed. Or I'll realize same thing. If they're good and they're happy, they can come through right away.
Mhm.
Or sometimes I'm just like, I don't know. There's definitely different realms. Like there was
Mhm.
a situation where there was a gentleman that attempted to kill someone, right?
Okay.
Okay, I'm not gonna like drop names or anything.
Okay.
The gentleman who attempted this
Mhm.
passed, and I got a vision of he'll never be able to reach her when she passes.
Oh my
Wow.
Yeah.
So, but it kind of conflicts with like, what do I believe? And this is me being honest. I'm on a journey of discovering what I still believe in, because it's constantly
I'm
with
totally the
every
same.
reading I give, I'm challenged. I'm provoked thought. Like my
Okay, so then can I ask you, do you
Yeah.
believe that everyone goes to heaven?
So this is interesting because it's like, do I believe in a hell?
Yeah.
A fiery abyss where
Yeah.
there's a man in red in a Halloween costume?
And it's like you did bad things.
I don't know, but I do know for 1,000% if somebody commits, this is only from what I've experienced,
Mhm.
this is the only thing
Yeah,
I can
tell us
speak
about that.
on, is that I know if someone really did somebody wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Like Hitler.
Right. Or
Like,
let's say somebody
can't-
like, I hate to say it,
Yeah.
but like somebody that, kills other people in
Yeah.
like a very
Serial
violent
killers.
way. Yeah.
So that too, because then you're getting into like, did they ever have a soul or were they possessed?
That, I want to
Yeah.
talk about that too.
Yeah.
I want to talk
There's
about that
so
too.
many questions
Yeah.
that I still have and theories that I wonder, but I do know if somebody, let's just say, they're not going to be the one greeting you when you
Yeah,
pass
right.
over. You're gonna have the Nona. You're gonna have the people
when you want to say,
yes,
yeah,
they know. Oh, I get chills.
Yeah.
So they know who you want greeting you.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be the guy that tried to kill you.
Right.
He's gonna be over there.
Yeah.
And he's gonna be. So again, do they go to hell? I don't know, because I do believe in like possessions. I do believe in like that stuff. I do kind of believe that, because my theory is you can't, when you have a battery, there's a positive and a negative.
Yeah.
The laws of the universe are positive and negative.
Right.
You can't have light without dark.
Right, exactly. And
Yeah.
there's always going to be negative. And
Yes.
like that just sometimes comes
Yes.
as
Yes. So
negative.
unfortunately, I do believe in like the negative. I also have firsthand seen,
Darkness.
Not me. I've seen people dabble in it, and I'm like, get me the fuck away from
I
this.
do not
I
work
don't
in the
fuck
dark
with that.
because
No.
I don't fuck with it. It's
No.
very, very.
It's real.
Well, what do you?
It's
mean,
very
like,
real,
you mean,
and it's like,
bringing
I
harm
can't do
to
it.
Someone energetically.
I've
Is that
seen
what you
people. It's like, look, I mean, what I do technically is considered witchcraft, right?
Right.
Doing the mediumship.
Right.
But it's like, I do believe that I have seen firsthand people fuck with. Sorry, again.
It's okay.
No, you
curse.
can
Okay.
curse. You can curse.
I've seen people fuck with, God's will. Let's just say that. Or they want to intervene and they'll make a contract or a deal with something that's not of the light.
Oh.
Yes.
Like celebrities.
That's another
Yeah.
big one too,
Yeah.
where it's like, I hate to say it, but
Yeah.
there's this thing, right? Where it's
That's
like there's
so in our
okay,
faces.
so I'm just gonna put this out there. So there's somebody that I know that's like from Africa,
Mm-hmm.
from a tribe, and she has said many times about like people that are famous, fame
Yeah.
and fortune, they have a debt to pay.
Yeah.
And that's
Oh,
what
yes.
they
They're
believe
so-
in,
1000%.
that like a
Yes.
tribal culture
Yes.
as a collective. Again, that's what I was told.
Mhm.
But ever since I was told that and I heard it, it just very much resonates with me. And there's a lot
Yeah.
of lot of
Symbolism.
things,
Well,
but there's a lot of truth in
and that too. I mean, I feel like that is just like, it's so in our face, where if you can't see it,
Yeah.
I'm
Okay,
like,
so do you mean like they have a direct relationship with like demonic presences and something like that?
so who?
The people that you think are like selling part of themselves in order to get something they want.
I don't
in a
know
dark
exactly.
way.
So I can't speak on behalf of like the dark arts, because like I said, I saw some shit and I was like, fuck that, and I left and I cut
Okay.
ties and
I've
I was
had
like,
something
Same.
like that.
I know.
experienced that.
I know. It's like I'm protected from that because it's not something I can handle, so to speak. Not that I
Yeah.
can't handle it. I don't want to.
I don't
Yeah.
want to, because
I'm not up for that assignment.
then
You
you're
shouldn't ever
energetically
feel
tied
scared.
to it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
right. That's not an assignment that
Yeah.
I'm up for.
No.
And like my spirit
No.
guides know that. Like I'm not
Yeah.
doing.
No, I got a glimpse
No
into
judgment.
Right.
Me,
No. But
I don't care
there's
what
people that
anybody
do
does.
it, and that's fine.
Yeah.
Right now, everybody's on their own
No.
path.
Yep. But for me in this life, and hey, who's to say I didn't fuck with this shit in another life?
Right.
Because the medium shit is following me through this life, so
Right.
who
It's
knows?
been there for a
we
while.
don't know. But the ultimate truth is none of us will really know
No.
until we're dead.
Right.
So,
So okay, then another question. I could have just talked to you all
I
night.
know. We have a lot of questions.
Do you think it's possible, like people that do grow up to be, like, say, like just a bad person in general? Think of all the bad things that you could become, like, use your imagination.
mhm.
Do you think like maybe something as a child or something like that, they have a traumatic experience and their soul, I have chills, their soul actually, they choose for it to leave the body because of the trauma, and then they go on the rest of their life without a soul, and that's why they're making these terrible choices and decisions and like,
This is such a good question.
okay.
Mhm.
So I actually met, I do a lot of like the mentorships online for like the mediumship, especially in the beginning. So I've
Yeah.
worked with different mentors. I've worked with different, I've met people from all over the world, and I've kept in touch with, and I still follow this one person who you actually might be interested
Okay.
in delving into this.
Okay.
I'm not going to drop names, but we'll talk after.
Okay.
I reach out to her. Her content is so interesting because she is a medium, but she's very interested in the psychological.
I love that.
That's
it is.
where
I get chills.
yes.
It is so cool. Her content is, and she's back to school for this to teach the human
To
mind.
combine the two.
Yes.
I love this.
And it's so. I met with her because I'm like, I had that
Because
question.
there's a science
Yeah.
behind it, right? Which is like that.
That too. It's like, and then I have these questions.
Yeah.
Is it? I don't know if the soul leaves the body.
Okay.
I think it's a trauma response to black it
A
out.
disconnect.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like psychedelics might come into play.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? To
Yeah.
unlock certain traumas that you're harboring in your body that you don't know you are. Because it's like traumas get embedded in the DNA of your like soul, really.
Yes.
So, and then your soul is the one that carries on. You shed the body, but it's still embedded. It's still in that ball of energy when you leave the body and you go back to your energetic form. Yeah. In some way, if it's not resolved in this life, you do kind of, I believe, again, this is all subject to my own interpretation. I don't have all the answers.
Honestly, you sound like
right.
Right.
And it goes in with like karma.
Yeah.
With karma. Like
That
I always
too,
say trauma gets trapped in the gut, which is the same thing. It's
Yes.
your DNA.
Yes.
And it does, again, like if you carry it on, that's when like energetic karma clearing from past lives comes in.
Yeah. So I don't know if I necessarily can get down with the fact that the soul leaves the body.
Okay.
I think it's the same thing with like going into contract with the dark arts. That's what your soul is agreeing to, and you have to kind of live with it, whether you die in contract.
And deal with the consequences.
Kind of.
Yeah.
Right. That absolutely, that makes full sense.
Yeah.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Let's go.
Okay, so this is not about anything dark. So, okay, a lot of times, like in a reading, right, like, somebody will come forward, right, and like the person will say, like, oh, it's that grandmother, like we didn't have the best relationship,
Right, okay.
but it's like I expected the other grandmother,
ego,
who I loved,
ego,
right, who we were so close, and it's like, what's your take on that? Because a lot of times, the person that somebody doesn't expect to come through comes through with like the strongest messages, or has to, like, it's just like, nope, I'm here, this is it.
I say that all the time because it's actually in my introduction. If you ever do a reading with me or you come to a group event, I always have it. I say you're coming to a medium.
Right.
If you're coming as an individual one-on-one, you're coming because you just lost somebody, you want to hear from somebody, you're grieving, you're heavy in your grief. I always tell everybody, you have your A-listers, but you have to keep in mind your B, C, and D listers, because sometimes it doesn't matter sometimes who it is that's coming through. You have to listen to the message.
Yeah.
But that's where, when we're grieving, the ego can sometimes come to the reading. And they don't care about great grandma.
Right.
It's
not who you want.
And it makes me sad for great grandma who like mustered up the energy to come through during a reading. And it's like, it bothers me because I see all sides, right? We see the other side and we want to give them a voice. That's our job as the medium. I want to make you happy, but I'm not going to lie to you and say, oh, it's not great grandma.
Yeah.
It's mom.
Right.
I will never lie in a reading.
Right.
I will refund you your money. I don't care.
That's part of our
I'll send
contract.
you.
It's like we can't, that's like part of like our ethics and our contracts. Like whatever comes out, that's what it is.
And unfortunately, sometimes the ego gets in the way. We don't want to hear from certain family members, but I always tell everybody, sometimes your B-lister is going to show up, whether it's a great grandmother or a grandmother that you didn't know, you didn't have, the tightest relationship. Maybe she's able to come through now. That's still your lineage. That's still your DNA. You wouldn't be here if it wasn't for them.
Right.
Creating a family in the
Be
first
open
place.
to hearing.
And I
just listen to them. That's it. Just keep.
And
just
I
listen.
feel like, sometimes, again, like we don't have the greatest relationships with people because of life, because of people's own traumas, right? Our own traumas, whatever, right? And I do feel like, your soul is reborn. Like you don't go with that trauma always to the next life. And it's like, that's why sometimes people come through. Like my grandmother, for example, she had my gift. That's where I got it from. She absolutely did not live in this life with that gift. Everybody
closed it off.
Yes. Yeah. She drank. She had 8 kids. She got married very young.
That is so fun.
Right. Yeah. Again, like a lot of environmental factors, so she never had a chance. And I truly believe, which she has said to me, I drank because that was my escape.
Yeah.
I knew when my husband was going to die. I knew when my kids were going to die. Because she had 2 children die before her.
Wow. I mean, how do you not have compassion for that?
Right. And the thing is, that's like, talking to anybody that she died when I was 6 months, but talking to anybody that like knew her physically, like Lorraine did not live as a spiritualist. Lorraine did not live as a psychic. Lorraine did not live as an intuitive. But again,
she probably did have it and she coped.
Absolutely. And since I was little, I've always like, she would leave me. She left me. I still don't know if this was real or not. She left me this costume jewelry in my backyard.
Oh, wow.
And dirt when I was little. I still don't know till this day if it was real or not.
If you think it is, it is. That's how I feel.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, physically, I don't know. Do I have it? No. But, like, I remember as a little girl always being so connected to her. And it wasn't until, like, a few years
So
ago.
was it physical jewelry? Was it actual physical jewelry?
Yes. But like I said, do I have the jewelry now? 30 years, 50,
Or was it in your mind? Are you sure? Or was it in your mind's eye?
That's what I said.
Yeah.
Was it real physically or not? I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember her leaving me this costume jewelry in the backyard. Again, not something that, like, I remember, like, telling my parents, right?
Yeah.
All of those things. But, again, like, back to my whole point is that she didn't live in this gift.
She
But
wasn't authentic.
she came to me and said, like, I drank because, like, I knew my kids were gonna die. I knew my husband was gonna die, and she, you know, was not able to.
She didn't have the tools to navigate
right,
it. Yeah.
but she comes to me and she's, you know, literally,
free of all that
free
shit
of,
that was
exactly,
here, and a better. So that's why sometimes I feel like our loved ones, especially when we have our shit, they leave it here. They leave it here. They're the hardships, anything that was hard. When they go to the other side, they're like free of all that, and they're in their purest form. That's why she's able to help you.
And that's the same thing that I believe also. And
Yeah.
like her daughters, like I have 5 aunts, like her daughters. Not that they would ever say anything bad about her, but they had a different experience with her physically.
Yes.
They don't, you
Yes.
know, they didn't get to have
Yes.
like it's a gift for me
Yes.
to be able to
Yes.
have this experience.
Yes. I'm
with
sure it bothers
her.
them too.
Right.
Because they're like, you don't even know.
Exactly.
Yeah, what
But
she
now
was like,
they've made peace with it now and they completely like understand.
Right.
But I was the one to be like, wait, you know, she had this gift,
Yeah.
and everybody like looked at me, but they do truly believe it at this point.
Yeah.
But again, like that's part of you know, like how people have things that happen on earth and then when they go to the other side, and I feel like that's why sometimes they are able to come through where they don't have those
But
barriers.
that's why I asked,
No.
I do have the belief that everyone does go to heaven in a certain sense.
Right.
Like a way that we can't understand. Like I don't believe that there is a place where someone goes to suffer forever. But there could be a disconnect. But there is a part of everyone, I think, and a part of everyone's soul that is pure and is their highest form. And that's the part of them that's leaving. And then maybe another part of them, because we don't understand what that would look like. It's not like a human body. It could dissipate and whatever. But then a part of them is leaving and going to learn the lessons and develop further. And then the good part of them is in heaven. That's really what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What I felt in readings is that, you know, the soul passes on, right? So I've had, for example, so like traumatic passings, whether it is intentional or accidental.
Yeah.
It's trippy because they kind of make me feel how they felt and how I can explain it in order to get their loved ones to understand what it was like. And really, when I tell you, imagine just standing up and crossing over and standing on that carpet, and that's it.
To die, you mean?
Imagine like an accidental. I'll speak on behalf of an accident.
It happens.
And it's like, fuck, but you don't even. Sorry, it's true.
Yeah.
You do. You're here 1 second, and you're literally like in another realm, and you're not going back.
There's no suffering then, is that? Or I guess there could be, but like spiritually.
No.
Yeah. And sometimes like
think so.
sometimes they're like they don't even really know what happens. That's
So this
because it happens so quickly.
Yeah, this is what I'm saying. So I did a reading a few weeks ago, and there was an accidental passing, and it was sudden, and it just rocked the world of the loved ones that he left behind. And I said, but you need to understand like where he's coming from. Like, I want you to understand. Envision yourself walking from that hallway. We walked from that hallway into the room, right? You walk into the room, and there's a whole room full of, first of all, a love that does not exist here.
Yeah.
It's actually depressing when you feel it, and then you come back to reality. You're like, this doesn't exist, and in the nicest way possible. I'm sorry, but like even with my kids, it's like there's no love greater than the love that awaits for you on the other side.
Yeah,
like that I know. Imagine the
room
filled with like ancestors, like support team that you don't even know exists, but you were assigned to them.
Yeah.
When you get there, you're like, oh shit. All right, I guess I must be dead. You know, to try to like explain it.
Right.
To try to explain it.
I kind of like this metaphor.
Yes.
Into the room.
You walk into and you're like,
but then you don't want to go
but they
back.
help you. No, sometimes it's accidental and you're like, but they're like, okay, we're here to help you. You're gonna get
It's
through it.
okay.
They do.
Like,
They
they're
help
just
you.
against it. That's why it's like
Yes,
you don't really know
I'm
what
not kidding.
happens.
That's just what I've experienced from doing the
That's
accidental kissing.
wild.
And you're never alone. Like you're
Yeah.
right away greeted. Even the guy that tried killing the woman, unfortunately, it might trigger some people, but he's greeted with like they're like, okay, now
What'd you do?
where did we go wrong?
Yeah,
like,
right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like they have like you're
they're
in like
still-
a classroom in a
They're
way.
still supporting that person. That's the thing. Like, people
Right,
wanna
sometimes
make it
that's
so
what that
binary.
person
Yes.
needs.
Yeah.
Because they don't have it here. They don't feel it
So
here.
that's what I feel, especially with intentional passings.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I get so, I walk the lines of suicide. I wanted to,
Yeah.
I don't want you to get shadow banned. I'm sorry. I shouldn't
We'll
use
do
that
a
word.
trigger
No.
warning.
Okay.
Yeah.
Unalive.
Yeah.
And there was a passing and it was intentional and I felt so bad. I felt the despair that this
Of course, right.
person felt. And there's a stigma still, unfortunately, in 2024 where it's like, how could that person do that? Now look at what they did. They left this person behind. I'm like, this person is past.
Mm-hmm. You're angry.
And you're still giving this person shit for doing
Yeah.
what they did. They're working through it now. Like they work through it though. They have so much support and everything that they couldn't
Right.
work through while living. They're working through on the other side, and they're supported in more ways on the other side than they ever probably were while living.
Right.
So I get really defensive of the passings that are intentional because I feel like they're still to this day. I get so defensive of them. I'm just like, you have no idea. Like you have
Right.
no idea. You have
what
no
that
idea.
person was feeling.
No, you don't.
And it's never about like somebody else. It's like they feel like
They're not thinking that.
It's either like the psychological and the physical matter, right, that we're made up of. So is it sometimes a chemical imbalance? Is it like mental disorders, or is it something that is just so deep within them where they feel displaced in the world?
Yeah.
Right, and like I don't wish that on anybody. That
Yeah.
has to be
feeling to
such a
get there.
terrible
Yeah.
feeling
Yeah.
to be able to even like get to that
Yes.
point.
Yes.
But
But the point is that they do. They're everybody has a room.
Yeah.
If you think
I
about
love
everybody has a
that.
room. I love that.
Everybody has
With
a room
their people.
with their people, and it's like they have people that they don't remember or they don't know, and then it's like you said, like they cut the levels.
Yeah.
I 1000% believe that because then it's like, not saying your ancestors aren't in that room, but like your guides or whoever you want to call them, they're assigned to you in this lifetime and they speak to you through your intuition.
Right.
So when you have an intuitive pull to do something, that's them speaking through to
Right.
you,
because they can reach whoever they want.
Yes, but it's just up to us
Right.
to listen in and
Exactly.
tune in. So, but then we go and reach the ancestors, and then then it's like I do believe in some like crazy paradise that we create.
Of our own making. Like
Kind of, yeah.
I think
Yeah.
so. It's like what you want it to be is what it is.
Yes, that too. I've learned from I was doing a reading for a family and the mother had passed and she was like, don't worry about me, please, because you have no idea the beauty, the colors, like
Right. That's something I heard.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, I got
I
chills
know,
too.
So like
Wow.
colors that you've never seen before.
Yes.
So our brain can't even process.
Yes,
Right.
Yes,
And
yes.
it's like you'll never, ever, ever be
Oh.
able to experience how
No.
fucking happy I am.
No.
Right.
Yes.
Right. And peace, at peace.
Oh,
I think
right.
that's
Yeah.
kind of one of the main, like when I do like a lot of like connecting with people, like my people and stuff, and that's like their biggest message is the feeling of peace.
Yes.
Internal peace that we strive for in this life that is
Right.
so
And like they don't
impossible.
have all this shit that they had here. Like they don't
Yes.
have that.
Yeah. You do have to work through. You go through. You do your life review, which I do believe 1000%.
Did you ever see the movie from the 90s, Defending Your Life?
I just no.
That was
Wait.
one of my favorite childhood movies. I
That
wonder
just
why.
popped up on my TikTok, and I was like,
You
what
have
is
to
this?
watch
I've never
that movie.
seen that.
It was
Why
like
have I never
amazing.
seen that?
It's from the 90s, and I tell my mom, Georgette, all the time, I'm like, I was watching, what was the other one? Death Becomes Her. I was like
You have to
7.
send me these movies.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and like so inappropriate. I'm like, Mom, like, were you even watching me? Anyway, which is another great movie. But okay, Defending Your Life. So he dies accidentally, and it's the craziest thing. So it's almost like a purgatory, but it's like kind of like a court, like a court you would go to, like on a
Oh,
trial.
I'm so interested. Yeah.
where they do a life review and they look at all of his best and worst moments.
Yes.
And decide.
I love
Yes.
that.
Well, yeah,
It's true.
It's so
I believe that.
good. And in this movie, it's funny because it's like they do it's almost like, I don't think it's heaven and hell. It's more like heaven or you go back.
Interesting.
And he,
Yeah.
well, you have to watch the whole movie. They don't want to give it away, but that's kind of, they don't really, I don't remember there being like a hell in the movie. It's kind of lighthearted, but you have to watch it.
Yeah, no,
I wonder what you think about
Oh my God,
Yeah. You know what? Send it.
Okay. Yeah,
Send it.
you can probably get it on Prime or something.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do. I believe in the life review. I believe that that's why a lot of apologies tend to come through during readings. So if we have a relationship with somebody and it was traumatic or they were abusive and they come through for a reading, I always tell my clients, you know, you have the right to, if you know who it is, just tell them, say, I know who it is, and like, F them. I don't want to hear from them. They were abusive to me. Tell them to go back. I'll listen to you. Yeah. I'll send that person back. Yeah. We'll see who's there, who's behind them, you know? But I do believe we have to live back our loved ones' lives, our lives through our loved ones' lives. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
After their past, you're talking about.
After our loved ones pass, if they were like abusive, they have to watch back through the eyes of those they harmed.
Yes.
They do. 1000% I believe it, because that's why the apologies come through.
Yeah, it's the apology tour.
Yeah. I'm so sorry when you were a little boy and you did this and I was and then you're starting to unlock trauma for the client that's coming to you, because they're like, oh my God, yes, your father wants to apologize to you for that because that was the beginning, that was your first memory, and they're like, oh my God, I completely forgot about that. But then, so that's what I mean, like there's definitely something to it, because you start tapping into things that are, like you said, does the soul leave? No, it's still in the soul, because I'm reading for that guy. He just blocked the trauma out.
Right.
Because it's like, it's like survival of the fittest.
Yes.
You have no choice.
Yes.
What are you gonna do? Like you're still here on Earth. Like what are you gonna do? Not wake up every day? Like or wake up every day like, oh my God, I was abused by my father when I was 7. Like you know, it's, you just block it out.
Yeah.
Okay, so then how do you feel about reincarnation?
I believe in it.
Okay.
I do. But I like your idea of like
pieces of the soul.
When we like master it all, we don't come back.
Yeah. Well, that wasn't my idea, but.
I believe
it. Yeah.
No, I do. I like. I can get down with that.
Do animals come to you?
So it's funny. I'm not an animal communicator, although I can recommend one. She's amazing. But lately I've been getting animals. So I had
that's been coming up a lot lately.
I had a hamster come through.
Stop it.
I swear, and I'm like, this is so weird. I don't get animals, but I know what a hamster is. I said, you have a hamster. She's like, oh my God,
I can't.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, oh my gosh, no, he's fine. Like, he's just, he's fine. This one time I did a psychic fair years ago, and those are a lot. You know, like what you did, like it's a lot. No, I can't do them. No,
they're very difficult.
I did them for
actually for years.
No, I did them. I did 2 for a fundraiser for an animal shelter out in New Jersey. I did it for 2 years. And I was like, I can't do it again. But anyway, I had a woman come through. So it was for, to raise money for the animal shelter.
For hamsters.
No, this was for cats. This was the cats and dogs. And I had a woman come to me and I said, oh, yeah, your husband's here. She's like, okay, yeah. I said, And I read for her. And then I was like, oh my gosh, and you also have like a bunch, you have like 3 cats. She was like, oh my God.
She cared more about the cats.
That happened to me the other day.
She did not care. She said, it's very nice. And then her time was up, 15 minutes. She goes, thank you for bringing through my husband, but I was really excited that my cats came through and that they loved the window that I put in for them to sunbathe. I said,
that's why I asked, because that just happened to me when I was doing a reading, like an intuitive reading, and like this woman's mother came through, and her mother passed like recently, and her dog just passed, and she was like, my mother can go, but I'm really like it's my dog. I'm very upset about my dog.
Funny. That's funny.
And I feel like that's
animals. I think animals are like straight from God. I don't think they reincarnate animals. Yeah. I think
they're in the room waiting.
Oh
yeah.
Oh no.
I know.
Because they have such a pure like soul as it is.
Unconditional love. Like that unconditional love that I told you that waits for you in your room. That's the closest that can really kind of describe.
It's true.
Why is this? Now I'm getting emotional about animals. I didn't care about anything else we talked about.
Animals. I was very emotional in the beginning when you were telling your telling everyone your journey.
Yeah.
It's a lot. It's overwhelming.
But yeah, animals, so animals do come through. They do. I'm not great with breeds of animals, but like, I could see, there's a black and white cat with like a blue blue eyes. Oh my God, yeah. And then they'll know. They know.
Okay, so that leads me to ask this. Do you feel like all of your clairsenses are unlocked at this point?
Clairaudience, I hear during a reading, yes. The feeling is very strong. Like if I have, yes, if I feel the most prominent I'll feel is like heart attack.
Wow.
Oh, it's
what is
brutal.
that? You feel like
horrible.
You can't breathe? Yeah.
Horrible. I'll feel what it's like to have a trach put in. They've made me feel that. It grows the years that I do it, and it took a lot of practice to kind of understand
the symbols. And
yes.
Yeah.
And to build up your dictionary,
right?
Your spirit
Exactly.
dictionary.
And to like know what to recognize. Like
yeah,
every time they do this, that's what it means.
But I'm glad they do, and they use me as the vessel, because it's like they make me feel like, it sounds horrible, but I had it sucks. I hate bringing through children. I mean, I'm glad they feel comfortable to come to me.
Yeah.
My ego doesn't like it.
Right.
The medium side to me is grateful and thankful, but I had this one spirit client come through, and she made me feel, I mean, she passed when she was 7, but the amount of chemo, she made me feel what chemo feels like.
Oh my God.
But I've never had cancer. I've
now
never had chemo, but now I'll know if that comes up in a reading again. I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta be honest.
Someone had cancer.
They had cancer, and they tried therapies for so long, and it was so much on the body. It's so much on the body, and that's what
wears you out.
No, it does not even that. It's like that's the message that I hope to convey to their loved one that comes to me for a reading, is to let them know, like, their body couldn't handle anymore.
Yeah, right.
Like, you did everything that you could in this lifetime, and it was just, this was their time to go back.
Because that 7-year-old, like, allowed you to feel what it feels like.
That reading fucked me up for days.
I can imagine.
And it was like a group event, and I reached out to my girlfriend that I worked with, and I was like, this fucked me up. Like, I looked at my kids differently. I was so upset. She was like, that is not yours. You have to let it go. And it's almost like, it's funny because you try to work out of like the egoless self, right?
Right.
And
but we're human at the same time.
Yeah, but she's like, you have to like just, because then they're not going to want to make you upset, and they're not going to come to you, and they're going to have less healing work. So I was like, okay. So I got
it together.
And I got it. But it screwed me up for a few days.
Yeah, I can imagine.
But I don't. Yeah.
I mean, but then when you have a conversation, this is like really a rough topic now, but like with a child in spirit, like, did they say to you, I feel like I had a job and I did it, and that's why I left? Or is it more like bad luck?
No, I don't believe in bad luck.
Okay.
I don't. I believe in everything being divine.
Right, but that's a hard one to explain away.
1,000%.
I know that's
unless it's like the child was suffering.
So how did we get here? That's the part that I have a hard time.
So I believe in. Did we talk about soul contracts?
No, let's talk about soul contracts.
On that note,
It's just what I believe, and once I read it, it's almost like it clicked for me. Once I started, I'm like, oh, that makes so much sense. Like, you make a pact with your friends and family, whether it's positive or negative, and you come down.
And this is what it's going to be, and you're agreeing to it before you come.
And that's what I mean. Like, sometimes, I mean, look, a mother losing their child, I have children, and like, I've read for women that have lost their children, it fucking sucks. That to me, I can't explain.
That's what I'm saying. I know.
And that pisses me off, and that's where I challenge my faith and what I believe. I'm like, why? Oh, for soul growth purposes?
I know.
And the ego comes in, and
I'm
it's like,
mad.
how do I, like...
No, I get mad. I do.
That's how I feel, too.
It is, but it's like, I don't know. And that...
we'll never know.
No, and that I don't know. I really... I mean, I could make sense of, like, the miscarriages. You know, the soul comes in and out, I believe, and then they're like, they check out the body, they check out the circumstances. They're like, you know what? There would be something wrong with my body. Maybe I don't want to.
But that literally is what happened to me when I had a miscarriage. Because I didn't know I was having a miscarriage because my body never, got released. It got the message, whatever. And then they have to, do it surgically, and then you get like a test done, and then I found out like all of these things would have been wrong. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, so it's almost like that soul was like, no thanks.
Yes,
and
I believe that. Yeah,
and you don't understand, and it's so hard, but it's like they didn't want that for themselves, so they chose to exit.
Yes, it's easier to make sense of that,
than
having a child that you raise, and then a mother loses a child at a young age, and you're like I get chills thinking about it because I don't know, and that's where.
That's the struggle.
Everything being divine, like I challenge
that. Goes out the window.
Yes.
Right.
function? What is the purpose?
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
It's like the more you know, the more questions you have.
Yes.
So that's
Yes.
a really, really hard one. And that's why I understand people like having problems with religion and all, and even like spirituality, because they're like, how the fuck is this part of the plan?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because it's
I know.
too much.
And then you're reading for a woman who lost her child, and you're like,
And
So
you're
it's like-
and you're a mother yourself.
yeah. So it touches that. You have to feel that. You have to feel like what it feels like for you to like lose a child in order for you to kind of tap in to be able to reach that mother through the reading, if that makes sense. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, but again, your question was, do they come through and say, I came here and I did it's not like that for readings. I haven't it's not like that, especially for a grieving mother. They're not going to come through and be like, okay, I did my job. I left.
Yeah.
The mother's going to be like, fuck you. I'm never coming back to you for a reading.
Right.
It's more so to give the validation that their soul is feeling okay. Their soul needed to heaven.
They're at peace. They're okay.
Yes, and they're surrounded by loved ones, and they're free of the pain that their body suffered, the vessel.
Yeah.
And I feel
vessel.
like that's why people, like, I'm sure, like, come to you as a medium, is because they want clarity.
Yeah.
Right? They want, they're grieving, or they have unanswered questions. And I feel like the whole, like, intention behind that, you know, like, reaching out to loved ones or getting messages through you is for healing.
Yeah. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's just a validation, or if it's a group reading, or they're here for a reading and mom and dad come through, and then, you know, the daughter who passed pops in really quick just to say, I love you. You did everything you could. Stop holding on to the guilt. Take that trip that you're debating going on in November.
Right.
And thank you for honoring me in the way. Sometimes that, I get chills. Sometimes that's just enough that the mother could handle, maybe, in a reading.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? And the whole reading is not going to be
Right. It's like what the person needs to receive.
Yes, and I've also experienced the other side where it's like a family hired me for an event. I didn't know this going there. You know, sometimes you drive to a private event, and you know, I don't really like try to tap in or pre-link. It's called pre-linking. Like I don't want to pre-link.
Right.
I want to just walk in, do my intro. They know when I'm ready to work, and then they'll come in. The whole reading was for this whole family that had lost a family member, a brother and a son. And then they hired me back a few months later, and I was like, okay, it's past the 3-month mark. That's kind of my rule of thumb.
They have to have died 3 months ago.
No, they have to have their last...
In between readings.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which really, it should be like once a year. That's kind of my...
Right.
Especially with medium
You
stuff.
get so
Yeah,
much.
right.
Yeah. Because then you become like...
It's not a phone call.
Like it's not like
Yeah.
must be like something obsessive.
But then I
like
felt the second time they had me back, he came through, but I was like, all right, he came in, he said what he needs to say, he feels a lot better than the last time I was here, and he left. He wasn't, other family members came through for other people, but they were like, well, where did he go? I'm like, but he said what he needed to say.
Right.
He was here the whole time, the first time. He did come in now to let you know, but he's doing his
moving on.
Yeah, not moving on. They don't leave us.
Right, but moving on to that's what's hard to like the complexity.
Explain.
right.
Like,
It's like
yeah.
how like it's like I feel like people want such like intense or intricate like details
Answers.
about something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And sometimes like that's not
You
what
can't
like
give it.
that's not
Yeah.
what it's meant to be.
Yeah.
It's meant to be
Yeah.
like what you need to receive
Yeah.
and like you know the
Yeah.
messages that you need to hear, not just like you know again like
Yeah.
I hate to say the word obsession, but like
Yes.
fixating
Oh,
on
no,
things
that's
because
true,
that's
too.
not
Well,
what
that's
it
fine.
is.
this is a good
obsessed with
message
it,
for
yeah.
anyone that's listening that's interested in mediumship readings to kind of like change your expectations that it's not always like a movie. Like it's not always
No.
going to be like a direct phone call. Like
I tell that to clients
Yeah.
too. Like if you come to me for a reading, I'll tell you like I'm not 1-800 dial heaven.
right.
I don't. I'm not texting them. I'm not emailing them. I'm not. It's not
Right.
that. It's all through your clairs.
Yeah.
It's all subject to my own interpretation. Again, like just like my beliefs based on what I've experienced, how they come through is all. Actually, I had a mentor say it once, and she nailed it, and I use it. Telepathic charades.
Exactly.
It's true.
It's not
Exactly.
concrete.
Yeah.
It's not. It's all through feelings. So.
And it's also like, you know, like it's like you're the vessel, right? Where
Yes.
it's like,
The
and some
medium,
things come
if
through.
you will.
Okay, can I
Yeah.
tell you guys something?
I don't think people realize
What a medium
and
is.
I have to add that in my intro, but
So I was at an event, right? And this girl came, you know, I had cards, whatever. And, you know, for some reason, like, you know, sometimes like somebody will come through just in like a regular intuitive reading when I'm using cards and whatever. And all of a sudden I'm just like, there's this guy in a red hat. And she looked at me with a blank stare. And I'm like, he just keeps showing me this red hat. And I'm like, I don't know what the red hat is. Like, you're like, it was very clear to me that it was like a link to her, like something she would know physically, right? I'm like, I don't know what the red hat is. And like, the red hat message, he's showing me a red hat for you. And again, she's just looking at me and she's like, he was a gang member. But the whole point is, but the whole point is I had no idea what the red hat was. That's how she was identifying him and how he was making himself known, what she knew of him in this life. So it's like kind of a joke because again, it's like I'm not really focusing on that part, the gang member part. But it's like I had no idea what the red hat was, but she knew. That's how she knew, and she was like, "Oh my god, like that's."
But don't you feel like that? Like the thing that you don't want to say because it sounds so bizarre when you say it, they're like, "Oh my god, I can't believe you just said that." And it's always like,
and I'm like,
no
what's
sense.
with the red hat? She's just staring at me.
But it doesn't have to make sense to us.
No,
and that's
It's like you. It's for you. The message is for you. Like I'm not gonna know everything. It's like what comes through, right? Like
it's not up for us to judge the information that comes through. We're just
like I don't know what the red hat is, but you do.
Oh, okay. So one topic that I think we should do before we finish up. If someone feels like they are a medium or they have these abilities, what do you recommend that they do if they're interested in opening it up?
It's a loaded one.
Well, what exactly did you do, maybe?
So, okay. In the beginning, when I started going to therapy, I got better. I feel like it took a year for me to gain a control of, like, me, right? Then the dreams started happening. So the dreams, prophetic visions, or just, like, same thing, like a friend being pregnant, and we laugh about it. You're a witch, haha. And then I journal it, date it, put it away. Have a little journal. Anytime, then you'll notice it'll start amping up to like while you're awake. You'll step into the room with somebody and you'll feel like, I know all this, like you said, like you have an energetic kind of like download of what somebody, you know, their life or anything like that. Jot that down when you get home because then you're going to be like, okay, well, I felt this and it was validated later.
Okay, so start keeping a record.
Keep a record, journal, date it, tuck it away. If you're sensing spirit in your home, obviously reach out to a medium. You know,
call me.
You don't have to call me. You can find, you know, whoever.
Dial 1-800-HEAVEN.
But yeah, I mean, don't let fear consume you. I want to say fear is why a lot of parents don't help the little kids out that are intuitive. Fear is,
I feel like we can all attest firsthand. We're not like going to our parents when we were younger, like, oh, I saw this, I heard this, I felt this.
But even if you're in your own home and you sense these spiritual, you sense like shout, you know it, or you feel somebody behind you and you know nobody's there, don't let fear get to you. Just own your power, own your boundaries. So just as we have boundaries in real life, the same goes for the other side. So if you're feeling they're keeping you up at night or your dreams are too much, set your boundaries, set your space, envision yourself in your home. You're safe in your home, get them out. And just let them know, this is my space. You're not allowed to contact me during this time. When I sleep, you leave me alone. You have boundaries with people, friends, and family. You should. In your waking life, you need it on the other side. You need
That's very important. And I feel like there's a lot of different messages here where people are like, oh, you see, like, you know, Teresa Caputo, like, in the supermarket.
That goes against my ethics.
Me too. And I'm so happy you say that because I always say the same thing. I'm like, I'll tell Spirit, I'm like, listen, I'm going food shopping right now. Like, this is what I need to do. Because it can be very impeding, like, to your own life. Like, if you don't set boundaries. You know? And it's very exhausting to go into other people's energy, especially unwanted.
So, it's so funny you say that because I joined, I don't know where this is going to wind up, so I'm just going to keep my mouth shut. But I went to a meeting for like a sports thing, and I'm sitting around and I'm sitting there, and you know we're having the meeting, and half are on Zoom here, and I'm like, and and then this guy came in late, and he sat next to me, and I'm like, oh, fuck. I'm like, fuck. I was like, I gotta tell him. I was like, don't do it. I didn't do it. I didn't do it, but. I sense it. I'll feel it. It doesn't happen all the time, but like when I'm out, I'll feel the need to tell somebody something. But I tell them, if that's what you want me to do, get them to find a way, because I have full trust in them that they'll make it work. They'll figure
Exactly.
it out.
Exactly.
If they're meant to have a reading by me, or they're meant to have that message delivered, then find a way to get them to me, because I don't want to do that at the checkout line. And then God forbid I bring something up and it triggers them. And it brings up a trauma, maybe that they've uncovered, they've
or if they're just not open.
They're not ready for
any,
it.
Like any variable.
So if someone comes to you, they come to you, and that permission.
They want your permission.
Yes.
Exactly.
If
like,
they don't come
you have
to
permission.
Yeah, like if they don't come to you and they're minding their own business, food shopping.
That's what I'm saying. I feel like that is a liability. That. Like, you don't want to go into somebody's energy without permission.
Yes.
Or like into their space.
I want to reel it back in. So so if somebody is in the process now,
you're really good at keeping everything.
If someone's
keeping us,
someone's in the process now, so they're journaling, right, and they're setting boundaries, which we talked about. So what do you think they should just start practicing with loved ones or friends?
That's what I did. There's a lot of resources, especially unfortunately out of COVID, everything went virtual. Yeah. That is actually one of the best things to ever happen. I've worked with mentors from all over the world that I would have never had the opportunity to work with.
So seek out mentors.
I would seek out a mentor.
Yes, that's important.
Ask around. There's probably somebody that's local. Maybe go for a reading and just explain to the medium, hey, that's what I did. I would go for readings and I'd be like, I'm having these things. And they're like, oh yeah, you're showing signs of, and I'm like, well, what do I do? Like, reach out to somebody that's credible, that has a good reputation, not somebody that, there's a lot of people around here that, should not be doing it. But,
right.
You want somebody that can better direct you. I always would recommend potentially a mentor. You can start with practice readings. What I did in the beginning, before COVID, I would get the kids to bed and I would do them out of like my kitchen table, but I would ask for people that had been to a medium before, that knew what to expect. I wouldn't accept payment for a long time, and they would have to be open to understanding that this is like they're donating their time for practice and for a potential reading. And that was like hard and uncomfortable, but you have to start somewhere.
Right. And again, like you said, like just a mentor, like reaching out to other people that do the same thing, like practice mediumship circles where like you're learning about like what other people's journeys are, because it might be like, oh wait, that happened to me too, and then it's like something that you're like, okay, I'm gonna like be open to that or dive into that a little bit more.
And then just go from there.
And then let it unravel. It's not an overnight thing,
right? You can't push
and that's what I had to learn too. One of my mentors was like, you do realize like you need to chill. And I was like, I know, but like I'm excited. He's like, no, you have to like relax. This isn't gonna happen overnight. I'm like, but I just don't understand. Then why? And he's like, you're like me, you're impatient. In the beginning I was impatient. I'm like, I just don't understand it. But it's a journey, it's a road. It's going to unravel the rest of your life, and it's just the beginning.
Let's end on that.
This is just
that
the beginning.
Was beautiful. It was just the beginning.
All right, make sure to follow Francesca. What's your Instagram handle?
Instagram's very boring. It's just Cheska Lee. CESCA_LEE.
Okay, I wasn't sure if there was an underscore, a hashtag in there. But make sure you follow her at Cheska Lee, and follow us at Your Psychic Besties Pod on Instagram. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Psychic Besties Pod, and we will see you soon. Bye, guys.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Your Psychic Besties podcast. You can follow us on Instagram at Your Psychic Besties Pod, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, Psychic Besties Podcast. Join us next time for more straightforward and uncensored spiritual guidance. Love, your hosts and besties, Allison and Alana.